So, mastering the n8n nodes, I've essentially provided 17 essential nodes for building production-grade AI automations that drive your business revenue, save you time, money, etc. Right? Over the last few years, we've been making hundreds, over 200 plus AI automations in n8n, everything from acquisition funnels to internal ops to revenue-driving workflows. For myself, my agencies, business clients, consulting clients, you name it, we've done it. Roughly the same 17 nodes appear in pretty much every high-impact automation that we've built. And these aren't just fundamental building blocks. They're essentially production-grade foundations that power scalable businesses' critical workflows. So if you want to get productive fast with n8n, there you go. Master these 17 nodes first, wire them into real business outcomes, and then expand your stack accordingly. So this is everything that you're going to be learning today. The essential nodes, the real production examples, practical implementation steps, and then free operational playbooks. So yeah, let's begin. So first, you need to get an n8n account, right? And I'll be walking you through these triggers. So first node is the schedule trigger. This essentially runs processes whilst you focus on higher leverage work, right? So the schedule trigger is your automation workhorse. It essentially fires workflows at precise intervals, once daily, hourly, or every weekday, right? So an example of this could be every day at 5 a.m., my lead scoring workflow scrapes incoming activity across GoHighLevel, collects data from our chat widgets, and it runs an AI scoring agent, generates tailored outreach drafts, and populates a Trello board for the sales team. Number two is the event trigger, right? So event triggers are essentially real-time automation hooks. So what they do is they react instantly to external events like Gmail messages, webhooks, calls, Slack messages, GoHighLevel new contacts. So essentially what you can do here is have immediate actions, increase show up rates, calls, and conversions. Event triggers let you catch leads at peak intent. The real production workflow here is that, for instance, your lead intake automation starts with a GoHighLevel webhook. Every new lead fires a workflow that classifies the intent, enriches data with HTTP, and then writes the complete reference record to your CRM, which also helps you launch one-click scheduling campaigns for high-intent leads. Perfect. Number three, we have sub-workflows. Now, this is more of like a, it's not necessarily a node itself, but it's more of a way in which you classify your workflows. So sub-workflows transform n8n into a composable microservice platform. Now, what I mean by that is you can build modular tools once like email senders, data enrichers, RAG builders, and then call them from any parent workflow. So this architectural pattern eliminates redundancies and ensures consistency across your entire automation stack. So a production example could be a sub-workflow used by 3 parent flows, discovery form, inbound lead handlers, and repeat client renewals. It essentially accepts structured inputs and returns a signed PDF URL. So I never rebuild proposal logic, I just reuse the canonical workflow everywhere. Number 4 and 5, they're essentially combined together. It's the split out node, and then the aggregate node for data processing. So the split out node is where you essentially take an array and turn it into separate items for parallelized item-specific processing. You'll then process each, right? So basically it will run downstream nodes individually per item with unique parameters. And then aggregate, which will bring multiple items back into one consolidated payload. So an example for split out specifically is where an outreach campaign pulls 300 prospects and uses the split out node to create one item per prospect. So the LLM will then generate personalized ad copy subject lines for each individual. Without splitting, the model would receive a single batch and produce poor outputs. With aggregate, let's say after individually generating 50 ad creatives, aggregate combines them into a single array for batch writing to Google Sheets and your asset CDN. So this essentially reduces API calls and creates a single delivery for storage. Does that make sense? If you have any questions, put it in the comments or message us in the community. So number 6 is editing the fields, essentially your set node. This is again your normalization point. The edit fields node, which is the set node, is your source of truth in any workflow. So it essentially uses defined types, enforces field structures, and standardizes payloads. So every single downstream module can rely on consistent keys and formats. So the use case could be where you immediately, after a webhook, set canonical fields like lead email, lead source, lead score, and meta campaign. The second use case is where a single version control, so the human-in-the-loop email revision flows. Again, link will be in the video over here. The set node holds the latest version drafts, so the reviewers always edit the most recent iteration without version conflicts. And then number 3, the template customizations. So whenever you're handling templates to clients, you can essentially expose a few set fields to let them change page niches, tone, and CTA variables before running the entire workflow. Number 7. So if node or switch node. So these are two, again, logic and routing nodes. Basically, if node is binary branching, you can use it when the condition is true or false. An example could be lead qualification. The switch node is where you can have multi-path routing. So what I mean by that is when you need more than two branches, you can essentially use switch to route by source, file type, or intent without nested if statements. What I mean by that is, let's say an incoming asset workflow checks file types, PDFs, images, zip archives. Each path runs a different microservice tailored to that specific asset. Number 9 is the code node. So what that means is your deterministic transformation engine. Essentially, don't fear this code node. Relax, don't worry. I know you guys don't code here. That's why I married a coder. Basically what it does is it embraces predictable structure transformations that are faster and cheaper than LLMs. So use it when you have clear logic that doesn't require AI inference. There you go. The code node is where speed meets reliability. So prototype with an LLM, then port the pattern into code for production. So production examples could be where the transcript service sends messy payloads with inconsistent formatting. So my code node normalizes timestamps, extracts utterance chunks, and emits well-formed segments for vectorization. Number 10, halfway or more than halfway through, pretty important one. This one is HTTP request. This is the universal connector. The HTTP request node is your connective tissue. So if you can't find a native node for a service, you want to talk directly to its API. What I mean by that is everything n8n packages internally is just an HTTP call under the hood. So AI model inferences, CRM updates, payment verification, and custom webhooks. Does that make sense? Basically, if you want to learn to read simple API documentation, you can unlock virtually any tool in any automation stack. Number 11, this is the loop over items. So this is where you process large lists safely. So rate limits and memory constraints are real problems in production workflows. So the next step is the loop over items, where essentially you're going to process large lists safely. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're doing a competitor analysis. You're scraping, let's say 97 competitor URLs, and you loop one URL at a time. So by doing so, you send each to a scraping sub-workflow, you wait a few seconds between each run and collect results. So this controlled pacing avoids timeouts and prevents IP blocking. Another example could be controlled outreach. So you could send personalized outreach messages in controlled batches with appropriate delays. And this approach obviously respects rate limits and avoids spam filters that could damage sender reputation. Basically, it throttles requests. It helps you pause between specific points. Okay, the next one. So just very quickly, we also have topics on special offers. So self-hosting in n8n. We can get onto that a bit later. But I do want to get onto this bit, which is the webhook and respond to webhook, which is webhooks and responding to webhooks. So for context, a webhook is a universal event ingress from landing pages, forms, and external systems. The process is where you enrich that data, run AI agents, then update the systems, and then the response is returning an HTTP response with confirmation payloads. So webhooks serve as the universal event ingress, which is perfect for web pages, landing pages, ClickFunnels, GoHighLevel forms, or custom front ends. And the respond to webhook node lets your flow return an HTTP response to the origin, which is critical when the caller expects synchronous confirmations. A production example, so booking workflows, let's say is Calendly. Post-booking data goes to an n8n workflow. The workflow enriches leads with additional context and then updates GoHighLevel with complete contact records. It also generates personalized confirmation voice notes and the respond to webhook return status, because you get my point, right? The synchronous pattern creates seamless user experiences whilst running complex background automations. Yeah, so webhooks and the respond to webhook, pretty important nodes. Now the fun one, the AI node, the power of intelligent decision-making. AI agent nodes are the cornerstone of modern automations. So in n8n, this node maps to an LLM node where you can essentially provide system prompts, context, and instructions and use it for drafting, classifications, intent extraction, and autonomous decision-making. You can keep it simple with a single LLM call or build sophisticated agents with tools and memory systems. Right, here's an example. Stuff we've used before, stuff that we have used in the past is specifically with content classification and intent extraction. All right, number 15 is tools. Now, what do we mean by that? Well, essentially, you want to give your agents the power to act. Tools are the actionable connectors your AI agent uses to interact with external systems. So they transform agents from thinking entities into autonomous actors that can send emails, update CRMs, write to databases, and execute workflows. The way this works is that the agent decides, parameters are filled, tools are executed, and then results are returned. An example of this could be during an onboarding process. So the agent decides which integrations to enable, calls tools to create Stripe API keys, sends welcome emails via Gmail, and then writes onboarding checklists to Google Sheets, all autonomously based on the customer's profile. And then ultimately, we also have the structured output parser. Now, this is machine-friendly AI output, where essentially if you want the agent to return outputs you can reliably use in automation, you need a structured parser. Now, this enforces fields, types, and formats so that you can map AI responses in other nodes. And this matters so much because raw LLM outputs are unpredictable, the format varies, and fields may go missing. So the parser creates a contract that guarantees consistent results. Then last but not least, our favorite node is specifically Google Sheets. Cheap, simple, reliable. Google Sheets serves as a lightweight operational day store that's accessible to non-technical stakeholders, and you can use it for editorial calendars, status tracking, configuration management, and intermediate data storage. Here are some common use cases, and so forth. So that's it, guys. This is your complete node toolkit. These are your 17 nodes, and the practical core of each production-grade n8n automation is distilled from hundreds of real deployments that power lead generation, client onboarding, content engines, and revenue operations. They are split into 6 sections. There are the triggers, which are the schedule and event nodes. There are the architects, which are the sub-workflows. Data processing, which involves split, aggregate, and set. Logic and routing, so the if, switch, and loop nodes. Integrations, HTTP, and webhooks. And then finally, the AI and tools. Again, this list isn't exhaustive of every single thing in n8n, but it's the foundation you use to build scalable systems that deliver measurable business outcomes. Thank you very much for watching. I hope it's useful. Let me know which one is your favorite node and which one you use or play around with the most. Thank you very much for watching.